Hello everybody, Tyrone the God 3 here, and welcome to Pokemon Universe, episode 22. Now, this episode is titled, Episode 22, A Fishy Catch, Clauncher Appears. Our heroes are headed that much closer to Zeon City, and they decide to take a break. They just take a break at this lake area. When they do take a break at the lake area, this lake is known as Seabreeze Lake. Coda points this out on the map, is that it has a lot of people and Pokemon that are attracted to it. Luna, while she's resting, Trent ends up getting some inspiration to try and catch a Pokemon himself, since he saw Luna catch a Pokemon in the previous episode. So Trent ends up using the fishing rod that Fisherman George gave him way back in episode 10. So yeah, nice callback to that. So he ends up using the fishing rod and basically waits for a Pokemon. Eevee comes out, as well as Pikachu. All of the Pokemon pretty much come out in order to relax, but Pikachu and Eevee are pretty much focused on what Trent is doing. Eevee snuggles up to Trent, and while he's fishing, he ends up catching something. When he ends up catching something, he reels it in, and it is a Clauncher. Clauncher comes out, and it's ready to fight. So we begin the episode with a wild Pokemon battle. And in this wild Pokemon battle, Trent uses Pikachu to fight off against Clauncher, and it's revealed that Clauncher knows Bubble Beam, Water Gun. At this point, he knows Bubble Beam, Water Gun, Vice Grip, and Crab Hammer. Pretty powerful attacks. He also knows Harden too, but he revolves around it. So he knows. Let's clarify. He knows Harden as one of his moves, but Vice Grip is mentioned in this episode, and I'll reveal it later. But anyway, when the battle takes place, Trent ends up using Pikachu, and Pikachu pretty much is able to max it speed-wise, but power-wise, this Clauncher is tough. Its Water Gun is able to be on par with that of Pikachu's Thunder Shock. The Bubble Beam is even able to be on par with Thunder Shock as well. When Pikachu tries to move in for close combat attacks like Slam, Clauncher ends up blocking it off with a combination of not only Harden, but Crab Hammer. So it's able to block off a lot of these attacks pretty easily. It's a tough battle. However, as they continue to battle, though, Clauncher ends up getting caught by a net. Now, the people who fired the net are basically these guys known as Pokemon Pirates, or Poke Pirates. These guys are known as Ansys and Edward. Ansys and Edward end up trying to capture various different Pokemon that are usually in ocean-like areas or water-like areas. They go around just stealing Pokemon, and Luna, Trent, and Coda basically tell them, that they need to stop. So yeah, Luna, Trent, and Coda tell them that they need to stop. Basically, Ansys and Edward's argument is, how is capturing Pokemon any different than what you guys were doing? And this is where basically Luna tells them that, hey, this battle was a consented battle between Pikachu, Trent, and Clauncher. They were all fighting on even terms, while Ansys and Edward were using nets and traps in order to capture Pokemon, which is not the way to come about capturing Pokemon. It's not a respectful way in order to challenge a Pokemon to a battle and capture it. So I do try to tackle the moralistics of Pokemon and what the difference is between capturing a Pokemon via battle and just trying to blatantly take it from its environment without consent. So it's a small thing. I don't meander on it, but it is something that I want to point out just to help increase the world building that's taking place. Ansys and Edward taunt Luna by calling her a little girl. This is one of Luna's set-offs. She does not like being called a little girl. It's like a weird tick of hers. It's kind of like how certain characters, when they're, I know, like when Marty McFly in Back to the Future, when he's called chicken or scared or something, he gets set off. It's kind of like that. When she's called a little girl, she just gets a little flustered. So because of her anger, she has Houndour end up using Flamethrower to attack them immediately. They counter by using Quillfish. They end up having the Quillfish use Explosion. And because of the Explosion attack, everyone gets down and takes cover, while the explosion is huge. They lose them in the smoke of the explosion, and the Poke Pirates end up getting away. Trent, Luna, and Coda end up trying to strategically think of a way to catch up with them, but there's no way they can catch them because, they're on a boat. A guy overhears them talking about their troubles and actually volunteers to help them once he learns that they were talking about the Poke Pirates. This guy's name is Bowen. Now, the reason Bowen knows about Ansys and Edward is because he's actually their father. He was a Pokemon pirate a long time ago. Bowen was a Poke pirate, and he used to do the very same thing. He used to steal Pokemon, he used to steal treasure, he used to just go around the seas just causing mischief. But he quit it because he realized later on in his life that being a Poke pirate ended up causing a lot of damage towards others. Once he started learning this, he ended up dedicating himself to helping the Pokemon of the sea. Like he would, do things to help their environment, lower the pollution, help them, basically feed them, do stuff like that. Basically, he wants to do a path of redemption to make amends for what he's done. But unfortunately, his sons overheard his adventures as a Poke pirate and seen his old pictures and things like that, and they actually have taken a liking onto the Poke pirate lifestyle, so they decided to be pirates themselves and go around causing the very same mischief that Bowen caused a long time ago. Bowen leads the others to a motorboat that he has, and they all hop aboard the motorboat and head off in order to chase after the Poke pirates. They see that their boat has set anchor, so it's basically resting at this time, and has been and is just waiting on the side. Once it's waiting, they make a plan in order to try to sneak on the boat so that they can steal the Pokemon. However, Koda's Wooper ends up coming out on accident and ends up accidentally startling one of the tentacles that's in the water. There's a bunch of tentacle actually laid out, and they're not laid out there randomly for no reason. They're actually supposed to serve as alarms to let Ansys and Edward know what's going on. So when Wooper bumps into the tentacle, the red bulbs on its head start flashing, and all of them end up flashing at once. They're basically serving as an alarm. So Trent, Luna, Koda, and Bowen end up getting caught because of Wooper on accident. So they have to change their plan up a little bit. Ansys and Edward come out, and they are ready to confront Trent, Luna, Koda, and Bowen. When they see Bowen, they're actually a bit shocked that their dad is there, so they try to tell them to back off and that they're not going to separate them from the Poke pirate lifestyle. Bowen says that we need to get on the ship somehow, so he basically knows that there's a lifeboat inside, compressed. It's an air lifeboat, obviously, that's compressed inside the motorboat that he and Koda can take in order to sneak around back in order to get onto the Poke Pirate ship. During that, Trent and Luna need to distract Edward and Ansys while that's taking place. So they challenge them to a Pokemon battle. Luna fights off against Edward and his Huntail. Yes, he has a Huntail. And Trent fights off against Ansys and his Quillfish, the very same Quillfish from before. While their battles are taking place, Koda and Bowen end up hopping on the lifeboat, and they end up headed towards the back of the pirate ship. Meanwhile, Clauncher is netted up with several other water-type Pokemon that were bagged up by the Poke Pirates. And this is where Clauncher uses Vice Grip. Now, I want to start talking about this right now. Clauncher knows Vice Grip as a move, but not as a battle move. He knows Harden, Bubble Beam, Water Gun, and Crab Hammer at the time of me talking about this. Now, why does he have 5 moves? Well, I feel like Pokemon should still be able to use all of the moves that they have to their disposal, but in legal Pokemon rules, during official Pokemon battles, I feel like they should only be limited to the 4 moves that they have. So the official 4 moves, Harden, Crab Hammer, Bubble Beam, and Water Gun are Clauncher's battle moves, while Vice Grip is, the move that it's using, in this particular situation. Basically, Clauncher's using his pincers in order to try to cut open the net. Now, it's a hard net, so it's taking a little bit more time, but that's what his plan is. And Bowen, Koda, and the others catch up and learn of this plan, and they try to help Clauncher escape while using the Vice Grips to tear open the net. The bigger water-type Pokemon that are too big to leave out of the hole that Clauncher created can't escape that way, so Bowen's trying to untie the net that way, while Koda is leading out the smaller Pokemon that can escape through the small hole that Clauncher created. Back at the battle, we cut to Luna and Edward's battle. Now, Huntail is able to dodge a lot of moves that Katini is using. Luna's using Katini because grass-type Pokemon against water-type Pokemon. Huntail's able to dodge a lot of these moves by just simply going underwater. They try to use a Grass Whistle. Huntail dives underwater so it can't hear the Grass Whistle. they tried to use Cotton Spore, it's not going to work because Huntail can just, dive underwater. So they're actually at a bit of a disadvantage, and Huntail knows Ice Fang, so this is causing even more problems for Luna and Cotini. Luna then thinks up the plan in order to use Cotton Spore across the entire sea. Huntail ends up diving underwater to dodge the Cotton Spore, but that's not why Luna ended up using the Cotton Spore in the first place. Huntail emerges so that it can use a Water Pulse, and when it emerges to use Water Pulse, Luna knows exactly where Huntail is going to show up and commands Cotini to use Energy Ball and Razor Leaf right at the moment that it is emerging from the sea. The reason she knows this is because the cotton from the Cotton Spore attack spread all over the entire sea. So the minute that Luna saw that there was cotton separating, that's obviously where Huntail's gonna emerge next, because when everything emerges from water, the water that's up top has to surface. So once the cotton balls separated, that's the clue of where Huntail's gonna surface. So she had Cotini use Razor Leaf right then and there for a direct hit. It gets hit, and it ends up getting knocked out because they have the type advantage and because they're taking full advantage of the strategy that Luna plays. So they're able to win their battle. Trent fights off against Ansys. Quillfish uses Poison Sting, and it does hit Pikachu, and Pikachu ends up being poisoned during the fight. However, Trent is able to use Thunder Shock on the water itself, and since water conducts electricity, Quillfish ends up getting hit by the direct attack on him, and they're basically able to take advantage of that. However, during the battle though, Quillfish still is going on, and he is getting ready to use Explosion again. So he just decides to cut his losses, and Ansys tells Quillfish to use Explosion. During that time though, they discover that Bowen is actually on the ship along with Coda. When they discover this, Quillfish is still about to explode. Clauncher comes out of the boat, the pirate ship, right on time before Quillfish ends up using the Explosion attack. And before it could use Explosion, Clauncher ends up using Crab Hammer to slam dunk Quillfish deep into the water. That way the explosion doesn't cause everybody to get hit in the crossfire of it. He does explode underwater though, so it causes a giant blast of wave to knock over the motorboat and push the pirate ship back a little bit. Luna is submerged underwater because of this, because she was on the motorboat at the time, but because the motorboat flipped over, she's underwater. And this is where we end up seeing another running joke where Luna has a huge fear of being underwater. She can't stand it. She freaks out. So she's grabbing onto Trent the whole time, just flailing everywhere, and Trent's basically trying to get her off of him. And during that time, though, we see that once all is said and done, Bowen takes Ansys and Edward and basically knocks their heads across a couple of times and tries to set them straight and tells them, hey, I abandoned this lifestyle of being a Poke Pirate for a reason. It hurts people. It hurts Pokemon. It's not the right way to do things. If you really want to travel across the sea and do stuff, then you can still be Pokemon trainers, but don't do this. After that and a beating, they both basically consent to that, and they concede to Trent, Luna, Coda, and the others, and they basically say sorry for all of the damage that they've caused. Trent talks to Clauncher and says that he wants to battle Clauncher again so that they can have the chance to fight each other. Clauncher accepts the challenge, and they all head off to Seabreeze Lake. Since the motorboat's knocked over, Trent, Luna, and Coda are going to use the Poke Pirate ship that Ansys and Edward so gratefully decided to volunteer to use for them. So they make it back to Seabreeze Lake, and when they do, Pikachu is poisoned. Pikachu cannot fight because of its fight with Quillfish, and it's a little, tired from that fight. So Trent ends up using Eevee instead. Trent has Eevee use the Baby Doll Eyes attack in order to weaken Clauncher's physical attacks. And then when Clauncher tries to use its Bubble Beam and Water Gun, Trent counters with Swift and various other evasion techniques like Quick Attack. Basically, in the fight, Eevee gets some good hits in, and before Trent can actually throw his Pokeball, Luna stops him and suggests that Trent ends up using the net ball that Fisherman George gave him in episode 10 as well. Yeah, Fisherman George gave Trent 2 items. He gave him the fishing rod and the net ball to use these 2 items to effectively catch Clauncher, because it would have a higher rate of catching a water type Pokemon. Because the first time Trent uses a Pokeball on Clauncher during that Eevee and Clauncher fight, it fails. The second time, however, he ends up using the net ball while Clauncher has already been a bit more weakened in the fight, and it succeeds in catching Clauncher. With that being said, Trent has successfully captured Clauncher and added him to the team. Ansys ends up giving Trent an antidote to heal Pikachu of his poison, and they basically agree that they're going to do the same thing Bowen did, and they're going to travel out and help water Pokemon, and help travel across the sea in order to bring peace to the Pokemon rather than causing chaos like they did as Poke Pirates. With that being said, our heroes travel off to Zeon City, and the episode pretty much ends. Side stuff. This episode was pretty fun for me because I didn't imagine a pirate plot when I had Trent capture Clauncher. I knew at some point Trent had to capture Clauncher, and I had him set up because I had the team set up before, the actual episodes were set up. So I needed to find a way to implement Clauncher into the plot, which is why the Fisherman George, giving him the netball, all of that stuff. And Clauncher is one of my favorite water type Pokemon. Well, Clawlitzer and Clauncher. One of my favorite water type Pokemon. So I felt like this was really the only way I could do this and make it seem appropriate towards the situation, was to have Trent fish for one. And it's a good episode for Trent too, because Luna just captured Houndour. So that brings both Trent and Luna's number of Pokemon at this point up to 4 during the story. And I felt like this was the best way to do it, is just to have them have a Pokemon battle, but have it be interrupted by a pirate subplot so that they can fight off against those pirates. And yeah, I never imagined it. And it was one of those weird as I'm writing plots that came up. Because originally, I was just going to have Clauncher be really hard to fight, and then Trent would have to just strategize a bunch of different times on how to fight off against Clauncher until he eventually found a way. But I didn't like that concept. It got boring. So I decided to go ahead and make this pirate subplot and introduce some characters of the day situation. But, it's a father-son thing. The moralistics of Pokemon actually got tackled on too. Like, is it wrong or is it right to capture a Pokemon versus challenging it to a battle? Fun things like that. And, just to make it so that Trent and Luna have some good Pokemon battles in to make themselves stronger. Strategizing the use of characters, Coda being used in different ways alongside Bowen, just fun things like that. So yeah, I had a lot of fun writing this episode. I know it's really just exists so that, Trent can get an extra Pokemon. But with that being said, what did you like this episode? What part did you like? What part didn't you like? What part do you think needs work? I'm down for criticisms as well. I mean, I have written a bunch of these episodes out already so far, but I am able to try to make changes. And when I do make those successful changes, I'll proofread the episodes. I'm still proofreading them to this day, and I made this episode way back in like 2014. So it's pretty funny. But yeah, I go back and sometimes I tweak a few things here and there. I want to make sure that if I do release it, it comes out perfect. But with that being said, the next episode will be episode 23. And that episode is titled, Help Us, Wooper, We Need You. So with that said, I'll see you all then, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Tyron the God 3 out.